All right, so reminder, presentations are due tomorrow. So try to have those turned in before the start of class, those of you at home, because I want to show those to the class, your classmates that are in person. Make sure you turn those in, have those ready to roll. All right, so that's being said, with your presentations, make sure you follow the rubric and make sure that you have a primary resource. Okay, obviously having something, a firsthand account, person actually experienced the event. Please don't just read off the slides. You're not gonna receive full credit if you're just reading right from the slides itself. You can understand it. We all know that in here, right? Yep. Shake your heads. Okay, good. And citations, right? So make sure you guys have a citation page, MLA format. Okay, MLA format. That is posted on general information, the citation that I like you to do. So if you use a journal, book, if you use an online article, that's all right there in general information. You can check that out and to help you cite your sources. But like I mentioned, make sure you guys are ready to go for this presentation. Don't read straight from the slide. Make sure you guys understand it, the content, the information. Primary resource, I need that. So don't just say, oh, here it is. Nope. I want to hear a first-hand account, someone that actually experienced the event, their knowledge about it, right? Their experience, what they had to say. Can't break it down, analyze it, right? Tell us what this was all about. All right. And like I mentioned, citations. So bell ringer for today, describe the importance of the Atlantic convoy for the Allied powers during World War II. There we go. So we just got done with the Pacific theater with the Coral Sea, right? How finally the United States stopped Japan in their tracks, right? Now we're moving back to Europe. We talked about Stalingrad. Okay, how the advancement of the German army, the Wehrmacht, was finally halted here at Stalingrad. So I'll give you some time to work on this. Cody, you working on this here? You're finished. Can I see your response? Better be more than a couple words here. Oh, that's okay. All right, a couple sentences, good. See what we got. Okay, all right. So who are they in danger of? German what? What were they?
What word?
Yeah. What was out in the water that really was fearful by the American sailors and convoys? Yeah, there you go. Put that in there. Yep, put that in there. The U-boats. All right, so let's go over this real quick. Describe the importance of the Atlantic convoy for the Allied powers during World War II. What do we got going on here? So who's all involved with the Allied powers? Who's all involved? What countries? I guess we should start there, right? Chukari, who's all involved for the Allied powers? If you need help, I know a place in the room where you can find it. Yeah, okay, there you go.
United States, Great Britain, France.
Yeah, good job, good job. So we know France. Are they doing real well right now? No, okay, they got taken over in 1940, right? Okay, well, 1941, 1940. And then the United States, they're just entering the war, right? Okay, but they're fighting in two different theaters. One in the Pacific against Japan, which we know that they're taking their hits, right? With Pearl Harbor, the loss of the Philippines. But finally, Coral Sea, we stopped their advancement, right? Okay, good. And then at the same time, the United States is trying to get involved here in Europe. So today we're going to talk about this advancement of the U.S. finally putting soldiers on the ground. Okay, maybe it's not Europe, maybe it's somewhere else, maybe it's North Africa, and we'll talk why the U.S. decides to invade North Africa first. Right. Another reason. Okay, so we have Great Britain. They're kind of isolated on their island. But at the same time, their navy is still holding up strong, and they are sending troops to North Africa as well. All right, and this is causing a lot of issues, a lot of problems at home for many of these people in Great Britain. They're still getting bombed by the Luftwaffe almost day in and day out. Right? There's constantly some bombing runs going on, and they send their army down to North Africa. So how do you think the citizens are feeling in Great Britain when the whole army, the military, is going to be combating in North Africa when they're still getting bombed by the Luftwaffe at home? What do you think, Cale? Yeah, there's like, wait a minute, you're supposed to be here protecting us. What if they send an invasion? What if the Germans decide to come across the English Channel? Our troops are down in North Africa. How smart is this, right? Okay, so Churchill's like, hold on, there's an idea here. There's a plan. Here's why we're in North Africa. Okay, we'll talk about it soon. Soviet Union, how they doing? How they doing, Cody? Oh, I won't say fantastic, but we saw finally they stopped the Wehrmacht, right? They stopped the German army at Stalingrad. So finally we see maybe a turning point here in Europe on the Eastern Front. Okay, on the Eastern Front, right? So that being said, yeah, the Soviet Union is kind of on the flip side here with this war, but do they have the ability to fight back Germany by themselves? No, right? So realistically, that's the only country fighting back Germany right now is the Soviet Union. Yes, there's some ground attacks and fighting done here in North Africa, but for the most part, when it comes to brute force and the majority of the military, the troops, the soldiers, supplies, it's here in the Eastern Front. Okay, you guys remember how many soldiers died of the Soviet Union alone? You guys remember? What was that number? And civilians during World War II. Do you remember how many died just from the Soviet Union? Civilians, troops, soldiers, all of it. Ethan, do you remember? No, a little bit more. You guys remember? So just on the Eastern Front, the Soviets lost this number. It was crazy, crazy number. By far the most out of any other country. And lost a lot of manpower, people. 26 million. 26 million Soviets died, civilians, soldiers, all on the Eastern Front here. So that kind of insinuates what kind of battle this really was. It was just a all-out war, total war, anarchy on both sides, really. And the Soviets took the blunt of that. Okay. All right. So with that being said, the Atlantic Convoy was important. Why? Why was this important? Hikari?
It protected the cargo ships that were shipping stuff across the Atlantic Ocean.
What stuff?
Like,
armaments, right? War supplies. What else? Food, okay. Troops, yeah. Okay, I was looking for that. You can't forget about that one, right? That's how we're going to have to try to push back the Axis powers. Get these troops, soldiers, armaments, supplies across the Atlantic. And with the trailer yesterday, with Greyhound, we watched. We can say we saw, I guess we could say experienced it. How this battle really ensued. It was really the whole length of the war. Okay, how this convoy system was trying to supply the Allied powers throughout the length of the war. It never ended, right? The only time it ended was when the war was officially over. And we know the Germans had what? U-boats, right? trying to destroy a lot of the convoy system coming over. The best way to try to eliminate the Allied powers at this time is to prevent cargo, prevent supplies, and prevent soldiers, troops, on getting on the ground here in Europe, in North Africa. Okay, if they could do that, if they could intercept a lot of this, a lot of the Allied powers' assistance, their help, okay, they'll win this war. And we all know, is there any turning back? Is there anywhere to hide out in the open Atlantic? No, not at all. So this was a dangerous, dangerous battlefield in a way, right? Because just the trip alone was hard for the Allied powers, for the United States. All right, so is there any questions on the Atlantic convoy? Like I mentioned, the Battle of the Atlantic lasts the whole length of the war. It's never ending. And it's important to know that, obviously, when we're talking about battles and how important, significant these are for the war. Right, but the United States successful at getting troops, soldiers on the ground in North Africa, which we'll talk about today. All right, so vocab terms, here we go. A couple of them today, actually. All right, so we have 3 men and the operation itself. So we have Operation Torch, Erwin Rommel, George Marshall, and Bernard Montgomery. There we go. So 4 terms, like you guys looked that up. Oh, forgot a guy here. Sorry, guys. One more term I'm going to add. There you go. George Patton. All right, so let's go over this real quick. Operation Torch, what do we have? What do we got? Go ahead, Angel.
Invasion of French North Africa during the Second World War, the French colonies formerly aligned with Germany and France and royalties
All right, so plain words, it's literally the Allied invasion of North Africa. Okay, and Operation Torch, we're going to talk a little bit about today and how and why the Allies would go there first. And the main reason was because the United States had to get, their feet wet. They had to get used to this war and the battle, and they didn't want to go headstrong right into Europe right away against the strong German army. Okay, they wanted to try to, I guess you could say, get used to this battle, this new style of fighting, because the U.S. hasn't fought in a war since World War One, and that was very short. That was only a 1 year war for the United States, and it was mostly trench warfare. So this new style of fighting, the U.S. has to has to evolve, has to see what the war is really like, and to combat against the German army, Italian forces in North Africa. All right, so Operation Torch, Allied invasion in North Africa. Erwin Rommel, what do we have, Andrew?
I have who the German general and military theorist, popularly known as the Desert Fox, who served as field marshal in Wehrmacht in Nazi Germany during World War II, as well as serving in the Weimar Republic and the Army of Imperial Germany.
All right, so he's a high-ranking German general, okay, during World War II, and he's famous for his time in North Africa. Okay, that's why they called him the Desert Fox. Right, he was a very skilled commander general in World War II with his tank division. Okay, also he'll later plan for the defenses at Normandy Beach, the D-Day invasion. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit about how kind of that unfolds, and maybe it failed for him. Right, but he's a very skilled general on the German side, and he'll combat against one of these next guys here, Montgomery, in North Africa. All right, George Marshall, what do we have here? Cale, what do we have for George Marshall?
He was an American soldier and statesman. He rose through the United States Army to become chief of staff under Presidents Franklin D. Roosevelt and Harry S. Truman, and served as Secretary of State and Secretary of Defense under Truman.
All right, so George Marshall is really one of the generals advising Franklin Roosevelt during this war, and he wanted to try to get soldiers on the ground in Europe. Right, so he combated against FDR here with this Operation Torch and pushing soldiers in this invasion in North Africa. He's like, no, we need to go right into Europe. We need to try to help the Soviets out and battle the Germans in Europe. We can't go to North Africa first. And FDR is like, I see where you're coming from, but at the same time, we're going to attack in North Africa first. And that's going to be our decision. All right. Next one, Bernard Montgomery. What do you got, Zerby? Okay, all right. So Bernard Montgomery, General of Great Britain, tank division, tank commander, and he was combating against Erwin Rommel in North Africa. When you think about it, these two guys are, mano a mano in North Africa for a long time, for really until 1942, 1943. All right, Montgomery versus Erwin Rommel. That's what's really setting the stage here in North Africa when we get to Operation Torch. All right, so Montgomery, General of Great Britain, the Allied powers here, leading this division, leading the army of the Allied powers in North Africa. Okay, out in the desert. All right, last one here, George Patton. I know Adam later, but what do we have here, Haley Ryder?
Was a general in the United States Army who commanded the 7th United States Army in the Mediterranean theater of World War II.
All right, good job, good job. So George Patton, General, United States, 4-star general, and he'll be known as Blood and Guts. If you guys want to put that right beside his name, that would be really helpful because that might be on the quiz, on the test. Old Blood and Guts, that's what they call him. Okay, so George Patton, he helped out with this campaign in North Africa. The Operation Torch pushed the Axis powers out of North Africa, and later with the Battle of the Bulge, okay, which will be the last major offensive by the German army towards the end of the war in 1944. All right, so is there any questions here with this? You guys good with the terms? All right, real quick, just one slide. That's it. And then I'll get you guys working on your projects because they are due tomorrow. Presentations will be tomorrow. Slideshow, starting it up. So North Africa, we left off. Obviously, we talked about Stalingrad, but we got to backtrack just a little bit of time because the United States is getting involved here in Europe now. Finally. So North Africa. Why North Africa? Why would Operation Torch be the decision here? Why do you think the Allied powers, FDR, thought, let's attack North Africa first? What's the reason for that? What do you think, Cale? Yeah, good job, right? Good job. So FDR and obviously Marshall, they're kind of thinking of an idea of where to attack the German army first. And we already talked about it. Who was the main threat for the Allied powers? Who was one of the biggest threats to the world? Was it Germany or Japan? Who should the Allied powers focus on first? Germany. Good job. Good job. So we talked about that obviously last week. Okay. They all agreed. Stalin, Churchill, and Roosevelt, they thought, you know what? Germany is this biggest threat. Okay, we need to try to eliminate Germany first, and then we can focus maybe on Japan afterwards. Okay, with that being said, Operation Torch was the way to go. FDR was like, well, we need to make sure that our troops are ready for this war. Okay, we haven't combated, really, since World War I, in the trenches. Okay, our military has been far behind, especially when it came to that depression that we went through in the 1930s, building up into the 1940s. Okay, so that being said, FDR thought it was the best decision to fight in North Africa first. We just can't throw our troops right into Europe. We can't go toe-to-toe with the German army right away. Okay, they're just more tech savvy, right? They have all the new forms of weaponry, tanks, armaments that the world's ever seen. The United States, kind of lacking, right? They don't have the new advanced weaponry just yet. They don't know the style of fighting and how to strategize out in the obviously the desert area of North Africa and even in Europe. Okay, so breaking that Atlantic wall right away in 1942, probably not the best decision. So FDR decides, well, we're going to attack North Africa first. And at the same time, we're going to help and aid Great Britain fighting in North Africa. Because let's face it, Churchill, he had a decision to make too, right? So he thought the best way to try to attack the Axis powers was through North Africa. Why? Why? Why would they go through North Africa first? Go ahead, Cody.
Well, one, they're not in the open water,
Okay. All right.
and they can go straight up. Germany.
Straight up here? Yeah, exactly, right. Do you remember when I talked about the soft underbelly? Right, the Allied powers thought the best way to try to attack the Axis powers is the soft underbelly. Okay, where are most of the German forces located right now? Are they fighting here in France? No, where are they at? Cody? Where are they at? Where are they fighting?
Probably in the water somewhere.
Okay, so you have Atlantic and Suez going on, but where else? What's that? No, not there. No, they kind of gave up on that because they didn't want to go across the English Channel.
France?
They already took over France. Who's the only other Allied power left here? Soviet Union. Good job. Good job. So Germany was preoccupied trying to fight and advance into the Soviet Union. So this is going on right around when Stalingrad's happening. Okay. So FDR had a decision to make. It's like we have to try to put boots on the ground here in North Africa to try to split the German army. Focus them on, obviously giving attention to North Africa, holding on to their assets here in North Africa. What resources were abundant here in North Africa? What was it that the Germans wanted, the Axis powers? What did they need to try to fuel their military? Chikari? Oil. Good job. Good job. Right? And the Italians were mostly fortified here in North Africa. Okay, yeah, there was German army. There was German troops as well. But for the most part, it was the Italians here. Because a lot of the German soldiers were preoccupied here in the Soviet Union. Okay? That was their main focus. So it would make more sense for the Allied powers to attack here first in North Africa, the soft underbelly. All right, so that being said, with North Africa, this was a huge victory for the Allied powers. As General Patton, led of many troops and tank divisions, and Bernard Montgomery combating against Erwin Rommel out in the desert out here in North Africa, pushing the Axis powers back really to Italy. Okay, the main goal, the main idea was try to get troops on the ground here in Italy. Okay, that's what we're going to talk about next, this invasion into Italy. Okay, like I mentioned, the Allied powers viewed Germany as the biggest threat. And with that being said, they needed to try to create a two-front war for Germany. And the best way to do that was attacking the soft underbelly, which is coming through North Africa and into Italy. They knew Italy was the weakest ally, right, of Germany. It wouldn't make any sense to just go headstrong right into northern France. That's heavily fortified by the Germans, okay? All right, so eventually, which we'll talk about more maybe next week after we get done with the presentations tomorrow, is this surrender of Italy. How Italy will surrender and jump sides once again, like in World War I. But with Operation Torch, this was a huge success. One, the United States is finally getting involved. They're finally putting troops in the ground here in Europe and North Africa, mostly North Africa, okay? Great Britain finally seeing success, especially here in North Africa, right? And like I mentioned, this was really getting their boots wet, right? Their feet wet with the style of fighting that's ensuing here in this part of the world. At the same time, the United States is still battling Japan out in the open water. And we'll transition back to the Battle of Midway here soon as well. But for the most part, I want to just focus on this two-front war now that is created for Germany in Europe, okay? And where the United States first attacks, where they first see fighting, is actually North Africa, right? North Africa. Sooner or later, we'll talk about this invasion into parts of northern France, which is the D-Day invasion. But that won't happen for another 2 years, okay? They first need to attack the soft underbelly, which will be North Africa into Italy. All right, is there any questions? All right, so here's some pictures real quick. There's Patton in North Africa, commanding his troops, obviously pushing back the Axis powers out of North Africa, eliminating resources at the same time. That's a plus, that's a benefit. And they're going to maybe set an advantage point into the southern portion of Italy. And at the same time, as this is going on in North Africa, Stalingrad is happening. And we already talked about Stalingrad, how the Soviets successfully, which I won't say successfully, it took a lot of manpower, a lot of bloodshed, but finally stopped the advancement of the German army. So right now in 1942, we see the Allied powers actually pushing back against the German advancement. Finally, in the Pacific, which we already talked about, the Coral Sea, the United States gaining some footing, right, out in the Pacific. So with the Allied powers, they're finally stopping that advancement right around the same time, 1942, in Europe and in the Pacific. It's looking pretty good, right? It's looking solid. Is there any questions? You guys good? All right. So, reminder, presentations tomorrow. So I'll give you guys the rest of the time to work on them today. They better be good. Please do not read straight from the slide. Make sure you have a primary resource and your citations, MLA format. All right, can't wait tomorrow. Make sure you guys, I have the due date for 7:59 a.m. It's just to remind you guys tomorrow just to turn those in before the class period. You don't have to have them turned in by 7:59 a.m. tomorrow, but just make sure, well, if your first period you do, but fourth period, sixth period, just have them turned in before class.